running.
But how do they get into substance when we talk about so many people being and taking the stage tonight? How can they really get their teeth in and talk about some meaty issues? You feel like almost everyone can introduce their name and say what they're for, and that might be about it. How do you really get in touch with the voters?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so I think the voters will be evaluating candidates tonight on character and personality. And this is a really good chance for people like Carly Fiorina and John Kasich to step out and say, hey, look, we have something to say, we have experience. But of course, the wild card is Donald Trump, and we don't know what he's going to do.
Right, and then piggybacking off of that with Donald Trump, it's like they have to prepare to get their point across and their policies and what they believe in. So how's that going to play a factor in if any of the candidates are watching right now? What would maybe be your advice to, hey, don't try and focus on him, focus on yourself?
Right. Well, one of the things that John Kasich's going to need to do in particular is stick to the sound bites. As we saw in his announcement for the presidency, he can be a little bit long-winded, but he really needs to stick to the sound bites, get his message out, focus on experience, and just keep it on that. And I'm not sure how the candidates are going to behave with respect to Trump, if they're going to ignore him, if Trump's going to dominate, but the candidates really need to try to stay on message and emphasize how much experience they have and where they stand on the issues.
How do you stand out when you talk about a field this large? How do you differentiate yourself?
Right, so like I keep saying, one of the things that people need to do is focus on their experience in politics thus far.
But should you say something off the wall? Should you say something memorable? Should you practice a line or something like that?
Well, we'll know something memorable when we see it, right?
Sometimes they say it's that gimmick, right?
Yeah.
So talk about opinions. It's that human nature. You go in there with what you think you know, what you believe, and everyone you don't want to listen to. How do you change a voter's opinion and look at someone and say, I didn't think of it that way, or wow, I really like your point. How do you change their opinions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we know that any Democrat who is watching tonight is not going to be persuaded to vote for a Republican. But what could happen is people changing their minds among people on the far right, like the Tea Party candidates. There's a lot of people up there like Scott Walker. And I know that a lot of moderate Republicans are still looking for a candidate. They're looking for the more moderate Republicans to come out and say, hey, we're ready to go up against Hillary Clinton, for example, and we can win the general election.
Someone who actually speaks, wow, they're speaking to me.
Right,
I like that person.
Right.
This is the first debate out of, I think, 12. So how important is this one? It's almost like you're kind of laying the foundation in a way, but it's so important to come out strong for the first one as well.
Right, and normally I'd be a little bit cynical about the importance of debates, but like I said, because the field is so crowded and because the media has been so focused on Donald Trump, this is a really great opportunity for those candidates who have not been receiving that media attention.
Can you win a debate of this size, or can you lose a debate of this size?
I think the candidates at the top of the polls could lose a lot. So if Trump comes out and he doesn't have any substance, if the other candidates start attacking him and saying, well, you were for Obamacare before you were against Obamacare, or if somebody looks into, for example, who Trump actually employs and says, oh, maybe you have some undocumented immigrants working for you, I think there's a lot of potential to bring the top candidates down and potential for those candidates that are at the bottom, the ones that just squeaked in, to really gain some momentum here, and which would help them raise some money and keep them going on in the race.
That's the key, raising money.
Right. Yeah. We really appreciate your thoughts, your expertise, too.
No problem. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, Lauren Copeland, she's the Assistant Professor of Political Science at Baldwin Wallace University.
A lot more Fox 8 News in the morning. We'll be right back.